What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another Swift video. In today's video, we're going to talk about something that's been fairly popularly requested, and that's how to create custom buttons that are configurable and reusable. So we're going to be going through two examples in this video, making the buttons you see here. So the first one, obviously, is this button with an icon and a label. This is a custom button. It's not built in or anything. And the second one here is a button with two different labels, primary text and secondary. And here we see examples of what they can be used for. So this is fairly popular for things like starting a free trial with some other information you want to portray. This could be like a booking button or a checkout button, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to go through this very popular video ask, as well as pretty commonly used across any project, highly reusable. So that all said, make sure you destroy the like button as always. I'm gonna pause here and be that annoying person and wait for everyone to hit the like button. Should play some Jeopardy music, but make sure you hit it. Helps out video engagement, helps me make more videos for all of you. So definitely a win-win. Hit subscribe while you're at it if you're a returning viewer. Let me stop talking and let's get into the video. But before we actually do, one thing I want to share, which is a bit of a teaser, is a lot of you have been asking about the TikTok course, and I keep promising that it's underway. So here I'm sharing the outline for you of all of the thumbnails. It's 50 videos long. It's super immersive. We go into everything in depth, everything from documentation to logging in and out, profiles, different notification types. We go through Firebase, we go to the For You page, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're excited for that, don't forget to head on over to iosacademy.io, throw your email in there in the waiting list. There is already a free course that I have up there for the Messenger chat app. If you haven't seen that, get excited and get into that. Let me actually stop rambling on and let's get into the core of this video. All right, let's get started by opening up Xcode and creating a new project. We're going to stick with the app template here, and I'm going to go ahead and call this my custom buttons. Make sure, well, firstly, let's make sure we spell it right. Make sure your language is set to Swift, interface is storyboard, and lifecycle is UIKit. Go ahead and continue. We'll save it to our desktop. And before we jump into the code, let's select a simulator from here. We already have the 12 Pro Max running, so I'm going to go ahead and pick that. Hit the run button really fast. Let's close this side panel since we're not going to need it. And here's the simulator. Let me actually get this out of dark mode by hitting Command-Shift-A. Let me also expand the window here, and let's dig into some code. So we're going to hop on over to our view controller, and I already bumped up the font size, so hopefully this is large enough for everyone. So when we create any custom view that we want to be reusable, we want to create it in a way where we don't have to copy and paste code. So what we're going to actually do is we are going to be creating a subclass of a UI button, and we're going to be styling that subclass directly. So we're going to create two files, and it's for the two buttons you saw. So the first one is going to be a two-lined button, just like that. Go ahead and delete the commented stubbed code that Xcode gives you. And we're also going to create one more, and the next one is going to be a icon text button. Once again, go ahead and continue and get rid of the commented code that we were given. And let's move these guys up in our hierarchy. And let's talk about how to actually set these up. So let's get started with the two-lined button first. So it's actually quite simple. With the concept of subviews, all we really want to do is add two labels in this button, and we want to position them accordingly and have a way for the user, the caller of this button, to pass in two strings. So the first thing I want to do is make this class final so nobody can subclass. We're going to go ahead and override the initializer with a frame, calling the super initializer, passing in the frame just like that. We also want to now bring in the other required initializer. We're going to want to lay out subviews. So let's go ahead and override that function. And then most importantly, we're also going to want a configure function to configure this button with a given model. So I'm going to say configure with view model, and let's go ahead and create a view model. So I'm just gonna create it right up here. It's gonna be the same name as the class. Uh, and we're just gonna tack on view model. And let's keep it simple. Let's just give it two properties. So first we're gonna say primary text, and we're gonna say secondary text, just like that. And this configure function will take in this view model type like that. So now we actually need to have two subview labels on here. So we're gonna say private let primary label is a UI label. And we're gonna go ahead and create a label in here with this anonymous closure style, and we're gonna style the label a little bit. We're gonna say number of lines is 1, so it doesn't line wrap. We're gonna say that its text alignment is centered. We're also gonna say that its text color is going to be white, and then I'm also gonna override the font here to be system font. And we're gonna give it a size of 20 and a weight because it's a primary label. If I can spell weight correctly, there we go. We're gonna make it semi-bold just like that. So next up, we wanna copy and paste this actually, and we're just gonna tweak it a little bit for the secondary label. So we're gonna say secondary label, number of lines is good, alignment is good, text color is good too. Let's just go ahead and change the font here to be 18, and we'll go with a regular. So next up in the initializer, we're going to set some properties and also add these labels as subviews. So let's start by adding these as subviews just like that. And let's get the secondary in there. We're also going to say clips to bounds. And this ensures that any subview will clip to the bound of the container, which in this case will be the button. That's what that does. We're also going to go ahead and round the corner. We're going to give it a corner radius for the button. We're going to say it's a corner radius of 8. And let's see, we can deal with a border as well. Let's give it a border width of 1. And we're going to say border color is, let's say, UI color, secondary system background .cg color. So we're almost there, bear with me. Now that we have our labels, our view model, in our configure function, we simply need to assign the text of each of these labels based on the things in the view model. So we're gonna say view model dot primary text. You guessed it, copy and paste it, and update this to be secondary text, and update this guy to be secondary label. And then most importantly, you want to assign frames to both of these labels. So the primary label, actually both of these are fairly easy, but the primary label we'll do first. So it's going to be CG rect, X is going to be 0, Y is 0, width is going to be view.frame. Rather, it's going to be frame.size.width, and height is going to be frame.size.height over 2. Go ahead and copy and paste that, and the only thing that changes is the Y value now is also frame.size.height divided by 2, so it moves 50% down. And of course, we're going to be now setting the secondary label frame. And let me just go ahead and give this a default background color, and we'll go ahead and use this and run it on the simulator to make sure it actually shows up. So we're going to make this a system green, just like that. And now this is a full-featured reusable button. So how do we actually go and use it? So we're going to use it on the view controller as we saw in the beginning of the video. Let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to say let toLine button is our button. And let's give it a frame. And we'll go ahead and say 0, 0, I don't know, 220, 55. And we're going to say view, add subview toLine button. And let's go ahead and center the button to be view.center. And most importantly, don't forget to call your configure function. And in here, we need to pass in a view model, which is a toLine button view model, which takes a primary text and a secondary text. So the primary text, let's say start 3-day free trial. Or let's just say, let's make it simpler. Let's do start free trial. And then here we're going to say 3 days free, then $1.99 per month. Let's go with that. So let's go ahead and run this, and let me line break this actually so it's a little cleaner to read. All right, let's go ahead and make sure we have our simulator selected, 12 Pro Max. Hit Command R to build and run. Hopefully we don't have any errors. And if you take a look at this now, we actually have our button showing up. So you'll notice that well, before we get to it, you'll notice that the frame of the secondary label is fairly close to the edge here. So the one thing that I'll mention here is depending on how you plan to use the views, you might want to position things a little differently. So what I mean by that is if we hop back into our 2-line label button, you'll notice that we always set X to be 0. So if we bump both of these to 5, and from the width, if we go ahead and subtract 10, so to make sure it is centered, you'll notice that while it does add 5-point padding on each side, now the second label will have a ... and be truncated. So it's important that you either decrease your font size dynamically to fit the view, or you make sure that your button here is wide enough to accommodate your text. So let's go bump this up to 300, and let's see what that looks like. All right, looking much better. So this is a pretty common button. I would probably add some padding to the top and bottom as well, so it's not as cramped. But this is a fairly common button style that's used for apps that offer subscriptions. Obviously, I'm sure you've seen Apple use it themselves. And this is how you would create such a reusable button. So that's the first one we're gonna do. And of course, you can always extend the view model to have more properties in it, such as a background color. Right now, we just hard-coded it to be green, but in the next example, we'll make it dynamic. And then similar to any button, you can go ahead and add an action to it by just saying button, add target, so on and so forth. None of that changes. The only thing that we did is we created a custom UI for our actual button. So let's go ahead and do that for the second one as well, just icon text button. I'm going to be super lazy and I'm going to copy and paste all of this, and we're just going to tweak it. So let's grab all of this, let's copy and paste it, and let's go through this line by line. The first thing we want to change is the icon text button view model. Rename that. We're going to want text in here, and we're also going to want an image, which is going to be the icon that we're going to show in here. And we're also, like I said, going to include a background color, which will be a UI color. And we're going to make both of these optional in case the user does pass a nil. We're going to change this primary text label to just be label. All of this is perfectly fine. We don't have to change any of the styling here. We're going to want to change this guy entirely. So I'm going to make this a icon image view. Its type is going to be updated to an image view. And that's what the type here will be as well. Let's get rid of this and just retype it. But first, let's rename it so it's a little more appropriately named. And here we're going to say image view dot icon tint, tint color is going to be white. We're going to say content mode is scale aspect fit. We're going to say clips to bounds is true. And that should be good enough there. For adding subviews, we want to update this accordingly to our new subview names, which is label and image view. Let's see, clips to bound is good. The border radius is still good. The border is still good. And we're not going to assign a border color here. Our configure function is going to take in the icon text button view model. And in here, we're now going to say label dot text is view model dot text. Background color is view model dot background color. And what's the last one? Icon image view dot image is view model dot image. And the most exciting part, everyone's favorite, now we need to lay these sub views out. So this is going to be a little different than the first button that we did. We want both the icon and the label together to be centered. So instead of using 0 as the X, we actually need to calculate the X based on how large our label needs to be. So the first thing we want to do in here is say label dot size to fit. And this is going to update the frame of the label to fit its text. The next thing we want to do is figure out an icon size. So I'm going to say the icon size in this case will be 18, and it's going to be a CG float just like that. So now let's figure out a icon X position. This is going to be a little bit of a calculation. So let's see why this is complaining here. We've got a warning because we're not using that 18 yet, but we will shortly. We're going to say frame.size.width. And from this, we're going to first subtract the label.frame.size.width. Then we're going to subtract the icon size. And then we're going to subtract a buffer between the label and the image and divide that whole thing by 2. Now that we have these 3 elements set, we can go ahead and assign our frames. So the first thing we're going to do is the icon image view. We're going to say its frame is CGRect. X is going to be icon X. Y we're going to calculate in a second. The width is going to be icon size, and the height is an icon size as well. And the Y is going to be frame.size.height, subtracting the icon size, and divide this whole thing by 2. And what that does is it'll vertically center the icon. Now, the next one is going to be the label. So let me just copy and paste this. The label is going to have a height. Let's start with this since it's a little easier. We'll just say frame.size.height. The width is going to be label.frame.size.width. And the reason we use that is because size to fit already set the width appropriately. The Y in this case will be 0. And the X is important here. So here we're going to say icon size, rather icon X plus icon size plus the buffer that we added, which is 5, which we also used in our calculation right here. And that should do it. That should lay out our button for us. So let's see what else we missed. We forgot to rename this to be an icon text button. So go ahead and do that. Make sure there's no more errors. And let's jump back to our view controller and use this guy and wrap up the video. So here we are going to say, let icon button is this kind of button. And let me go ahead and just steal this frame from up here. So we're going to say this is the same as this. We're going to add it on the sub as a sub view of our view controller here. We're going to say icon button. And most importantly, similar to the button above, we need to configure it with a view model. So we're going to say icon button view model, and we're going to create this with our text. We're going to say checkout. The image, we're going to use a SF symbol. So we're going to say UI image. It's a system name of, I think it's called cart, if I'm not mistaken. And for the background color, let's use a system red. And let's see if that's hopefully not too obnoxious. So let me go ahead and line break this and make it look a little nicer, more legible. And this frame is actually going to be in the top left corner. So let's go ahead and actually fix that. So we'll say the Y is, let's do like 60. And the X, we want to make sure it's centered. So we're going to say view.frame.size.width, subtracting the width of the button. And we're going to divide that by 2. And that should go ahead and center it. Go ahead and hit Command R, and let's see what this looks like. All right, cool. So we've got our icon here. We've got a checkout button, and it's looking pretty good. So you'll notice that it is centered, the frame of the image and the label, but the icon's a little small. So let's say we wanted to make that bigger. Let's see how easy it is to now do that. Now, all we can do in here is bump up this icon size. Let's say we make it, I don't know, let's say 30. Let's just change that and run it and see if everything looks good. And if you look at it now, with only that change, which actually, now that I think about it, you could make this configurable in the view model as well. You could just pass it into this function here. The whole button still looks appropriate. I also think it's a little close to the text here. So we might want to actually, similar to how we have an icon size here, we could say icon right padding. And we could pass in a value there. And instead of using 5, how we hard coded it here, we can update that as well as that right there. Go ahead and run it. And you'll now see that it's a little more spread out. And we've got our corner looking good. We configured the background color, and it's a reusable component. So let's say I wanted to show a different looking version of this button. Let's say with instead of that color, and let's change the text to be like buy now. Instead of buy now, let's do like book flight. Let's see if airplane. I'm totally guessing that this is a symbol. Fingers crossed. Oh, cool, it is. So we actually get a cool looking button here. And the beauty of this is it's a reusable component, and you can extend the view model to your heart's desire to configure anything and everything about how this looks. So with that said, that's all I've really got for you guys. If you haven't done so already, don't forget to smash that subscribe button as well as the like button. Helps out video engagement, the algorithm, all that good stuff. Comment down below if you have any questions, video suggestions. I know a lot of you are eagerly waiting the TikTok course. I get so many emails about it every single day. I promise, I'm working on it. I would actually share, maybe I'll share a sneak peek of it or one of my next videos to promise you guys that I actually am working on it. It's 50 videos. We're going to be building everything from scratch. We're going to be doing everything in code. It's in Swift. It looks amazing. I'm super proud of it, and I can't wait to share it with all of you. So if you're excited for that, hit subscribe as well. Stay tuned. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.